Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome back to Contractor Cuts. My name is Clark Turner.
I'm Jared Flo.
Thank you for joining us again this week. So today we are talking about how much free work should I do to land that job, right? Where is the line of an estimate? I mean, some guys charge for estimates to show up day one, to even get their eyes on your job, all the way through. I've been running down the road for 4 months on this job doing free work. I'm just trying to get a signature on this estimate. So where is the line that we're going to draw between, hey, this is what I'm doing, and at this point, if you want me to continue, I need to get paid for my time.
Yeah, and I really think this is a place of frustration for a lot of people, because I think everybody in our industry has experienced doing the client having a demand of things that they want from us at the beginning of a job, and we really want to land the job. We're customer service oriented, and so we do all of these different things, and then something happens and they ghost. They disappear, that we lose them, and I've spent time and money that I could have been spending somewhere else to land a job, and now I'm out all that money.
So getting started, we're going to kind of walk through some thoughts on that. First off, some people say charge for estimates. I always charge for estimates to make a ton of money. Do not charge for estimates. Charge for the depth that you need to go into if it's required to get the signature. So let's talk about what that means. So for us, we offer free estimates, and then if you want us to do a consultation, it's $350. Consultation means I'm going to walk through your job site for 2-3 hours with you, figure out what's going on, start dreaming, and put together a list of what needs to be done. That's a consultation. If you want an estimate, I need a list from you. I need pictures from you. I need to be able to put together an estimate of what you want done.
Right.
Black and white. Not any, well, something over here. Give me 3 versions of it this way. And so we draw that line. Now, we've never charged, I don't think, ever for that consultation. But having a line of demarcation between what you can pay me for and what I'm going to do for free on the estimate is where we get people to say, yeah, just give me the free one. We'll start there. And so we're engaged. They're happy. They know what they're getting. And I can spend a little extra time and just, be the good guy on it. Hey, you know what? Let's just figure out what you want done here. I'm not going to charge you. Let's get it done. But then they feel, I'm helping them out and they're happy and I'm working for them and doing some free stuff when, in essence, I would have done that for them anyways, but now they know that this is what I charge for and this is what's free. So, our opinion, do not charge for estimates. Do the free side up front, and then where are we going to draw the line we'll talk about next.
That's right.
So, going into that, what we want to do is run through, and if you've listened to our last podcast, you know that we push desk estimates heavily. If you haven't listened to that podcast, it's a number of podcasts ago, but we talk about how to do a desk estimate and the estimating process. So when a new client comes in, I, as the head of construction or the general manager of my company, am going to put together a desk estimate, which is a 30-minute quick estimate of scope that you've given me and round ballpark numbers to try and hit an estimated amount for your job. That way, if you want a new kitchen and I'm like, it's going to be $68,000-ish, and you got a $5,000 budget
based on HGTV.
Great. I'm not going to come out to your house and waste the next 10 hours of my week trying to get you landed, and then all of a sudden you see the price and you're ghost. Right? So that's kind of, we're not going to go into the desk estimates today, but that's the free part. I'm going to do that for free, and then I'm even going to come out and do an on-site assessment of that estimate. So we come out.
If after the desk estimate I assess, the probability of me landing this as a client is high. The price was around what they wanted. I've gotten to know the client. I've gotten to know whether they're, are they a little bit nuts? Are they asking some really weird questions? Do I want to work with this client? I've determined all those things, and it costs me nothing. An hour of my time and a 30-minute phone call.
And everything we're talking about today is, this is how I'm assessing the gamble I'm doing with my time. Right? So if I get on that call and they're like, $68,000 for that kitchen. That sounds amazing. That's right on what I'm trying to do. I've already got my designer. We're ready to go, but we just need to find the right company. If I'm getting all of those signs, I'm going to spend a little more time for free to try and land that client. If someone's like, I don't have time for a desk estimate phone call, like, just give me a price and let me know, I'm not landing that client. They're just trying to shop it. They're trying to sell the house. They're trying to figure out and price me against another contractor. They're not engaged in actually hiring us. They're trying to get me to do some free work for them.
But if I determine, you know what, this seems like a legit lead that I probably am going to be able to land, I'm willing to spend more of my time and money.
Yep.
Because the odds of me losing this are going to be less.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
So I'm willing to go the next step of, now I've got my desk estimate, my template of what this estimate's going to be. Now I need to go on site and dial it in with some real numbers and real conversations with the client.
Right. And so with that being said, we like to start out with every client to let them know and understand kind of the timeline. We talk about our client engagement agreement a lot, and that is where we sit down with the client before starting and lay out exactly how the renovation goes, all the rules of the game around what we are responsible for, what they are responsible for, and all of that. I'm not going to go into that again because we've covered that plenty on these podcasts, how to do a client engagement meeting. But just like we do that for the renovation, I'm doing that up front during the desk estimate or my first conversation as to what to expect from this process up till when you need to sign.
Yeah.
And so we tell them, listen, we're going to do this, this, and this, but I don't say I'm not going to do this other stuff for you, but I start laying out, like, this is our process. We're going to do this desk estimate. Then I'm going to have someone come out and do a revised estimate by meeting you on site and kind of walking through in person.
Yeah.
Then we're going to come back and revise that and start ensuring that we chip away and get the price exactly right. And if you're ready to go, we're going to sign and get going. But what I'm not going to do and where I'm going to draw the line is pre-construction work. And kind of the rule of thumb for us is if I'm doing something for you that you could take with you and have another contractor do, that in my mind is pre-construction work.
Yeah.
And so pre-construction is a phase of our jobs that we're doing before the construction started, but you need to pay me for my time to do it.
Yep.
So I try to separate out what I'm doing for free and what I'm charging for into kind of using that rule of thumb. So, for instance, if you want me to work with your designer and an architect, that's going to be hours of my time that is pre-construction to prep for the construction.
And normally it's not one meeting.
No, it's not one meeting. It's not a single 30-minute phone call. It's a back and forth. It's a bunch of other things like that. So what we want to start doing is drawing the line between what we are going to do for free and what we're going to do before the signature. And so free is before the signature, and then what we need a financial commitment for to complete.
Right.
Now, everyone says, well, they might not be ready to sign that $300,000 estimate of mine because they need more information from me. So I've got to run down the road and pick out selections and do all my trade walks to make sure that my numbers are perfect.
Right.
And I need to do all that stuff before I can give them a final number. Right. And so what we do and what we coach on is you need to separate out into the top section of your estimate, especially on the larger construction ones, new builds, additions, that sort of thing. You need to separate out a section called pre-construction.
Yep.
Every single one of our estimates that are the large, really anything over 50,000 usually, is going to have a pre-construction section in it. And some of the smaller ones too, if there's more work that needs to be done up front. If it's not, hey, go paint the walls.
Yeah.
That's straightforward.
It's specific action items that are needed to set the job up for success.
Yep.
Right. Some of the details that are needed to be gathered, some of the information, permitting, there's a bunch of different things that are a part of this, but they are the things, like you said before, that if this client were to walk away at the end of me executing this and go with somebody else, that person would have had to have done those things as well, but now they're going to be able to take my work and use it on somebody else's job site. So that's the kind of qualifier, like you said before, of something that I'm going to say and explain to the client. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do all of these things, but it's to require us time and money, and I'm willing to spend that. I'm excited to spend that because that's going to really help us dial in and make sure everything is perfect so that we can really execute this job for you.
Yep.
But all of that stuff happens before I swing a hammer, and you're expecting me to invoice you for things that I'm swinging hammers on.
Yeah, people think they don't owe you money until I break ground.
Yep.
And so what we want to do, and I'm not starting out by trying to get them to do the pre-construction first. I'm trying to sell them the whole estimate.
Correct.
But if they're not ready to sign but want me to spend the time, I already have the itemized line items on my quote for pre-construction items. And so I explain to them, listen, I got to... This is a lot of this is tact too, because you come in and say, I'm not doing that for free for you until you sign with us.
Right.
Client's gone.
Bait and switch.
If I come in and say, hey, listen, I will love to dive in. It's going to take me 20 hours to do X, Y, and Z. I want to dive into this and get started on it. I think I think we're very close to signature, but we need some of these things finalized. Can we break this into 2 jobs? One is going to be your pre-construction. I'm going to get started on that. It's $2,500 to do X, Y, and Z. Are you cool with me spending the next 20 to 30 hours of this week and next week working on all of this stuff to get your job lined up and doing all that work? I've pulled it out of the line items. You're not paying me twice for this stuff, but I've separated it out to where you're going to pay me to do your selections, and I'm going to be doing a Gantt chart for you and walking with my crews, making sure that I can do all of get everything accurate to where we can move forward. But I got to spend 30 hours on that, and it's going to take a lot of my time. Are you cool with paying me for that? And if you're good, and if everything ends up the way that it is right now, we're going to sign and get the job done. Yeah. If not, you can still back out. There's no long-term commitment for you. You're just paying me for the time I'm going to spend on prepping and getting the construction ready, so we can start swinging hammers.
What's interesting, we just recently went to our annual retreat, and we were going over some of this information. And I remember one of the guys specifically said, he's like, I've told clients when we were going through this, look, here's the reality. Every single contractor has this information in there. They've just cooked the books. They've inflated their line items to cover this stuff. We're the only ones that are willing to put it in front of you and say, these are the real costs. Yeah. Right. So there's a benefit of being able to sit in front of a client and say, look, you're paying for these costs whether you go with me or somebody else. I'm just the one that's willing to actually tell you what the line items are.
Yeah. So what we include in that and where we draw the line of pre-construction, it's first off, it's picking selections, picking out light fixtures, picking out plumbing fixtures, picking out flooring. Again, those some of those are going to be changing the final price.
Right.
And so we need to understand some of those because all 3 of those things that I just listed can get really expensive. I mean, doing LVP versus doing a really nice Brazilian hardwood is a $10,000 to $15,000 difference for a house. And so stuff like that to where things can really start scaling in price. Let's capture all of that stuff before we move forward because you might want to change what we're doing on the estimate depending on the selections you want to match that. And so I explain it to the client and say, but again, I don't want to start going through those selections because that's a lot of time and effort to build that selections list for you and to start walking you through kind of what I've budgeted. But that needs to be done before we get growing. That's a pre-construction item. Another pre-construction item, dealing with your architect, blueprints, back and forth. How is this going to be laid out? Where's the water closet for this? How are we doing the HVAC and a utility closet here? All of that stuff, I need to be working with your architect. If you don't have one, we've got a plenty that you can choose from that we'd love to introduce you to. But working with your blueprints and architect outside of looking at it to build an estimate, that's during our pre-construction phase. Something else we do is trade walks and final revision. So I know that I can install an HVAC unit in this house for $10,000, but there's some factors that I might have missed. I want to get my HVAC guy to walk the property, make sure he understands what we're doing, look at the blueprints, and spend a couple hours of his time building a plan of how he's going to be doing the install for you. So I want to do that during our pre-construction, but I got to pay him for a couple hours of that work that we don't usually with that good relationship. I don't have to pay him, but I've budgeted to where I can cover his time, so I'm not taking advantage of my guys. If we don't land this job, I'm going to slip him $200 for spending the time and doing all this load calcs and all that stuff. But I'm not going to go and walk the job site with 7 crews to make sure our numbers are tight and revisions unless I'm getting paid for that time. Now, we also tell our clients, hey, listen, if there's a 10% variance on these prices once I get these revisions, we're going to, let's pull out of this and pause and figure out what's going on. I don't want my numbers to change by more than 10%. If that is the case, we're going to do a deep dive as to why that happened.
Well, and we give our clients an out. Right? Because we're telling them to move forward, we need a signature that you're okay with going with us. But we're also, in the same breath, telling them the next steps may change the final cost. Right? And so they're a little hesitant of like, what? I'm going to sign on the bottom line, but you're telling me in the next couple of weeks this number probably will change. And we tell them if there is a 10% variance where we go up by 10%, over 10%, we will give you the option to back up and say, hey, you know what, this is more than I expected. Right.
And that's usually when we're trying to get them, when they're signing the whole thing at once up front.
Correct.
If we haven't done those final trade walks and they're ready to sign, we give them that out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they're not ready to sign, like, well, I just need to know the final numbers before I move forward with the signature. What we do is say, okay, listen, I want you to approve Section 1 on my estimate.
Mm-hmm.
Section 1 is pre-con. It's $2,800. I'm going to build you a Gantt chart. I'm going to lay out at what crews are going and where. I'm going to meet my crews on your job site. I'm going to start building a selections list. And then I'm also going to look into the permitting process and what's needed there. And we could probably even put the permit costs into this, because even if you don't go with us, you need this permit pulled.
Correct.
And so we can lay the groundwork on that, even though I'm not pulling the permit yet, unless you're ready to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Start dealing with what we need for that specific municipality and pulling a permit there. So
Right.
saying this stuff needs to happen, and you can take all this with you if you go with someone else. But we have a ballpark number that we're both pretty good with in terms of, I think it's accurate and it's within your budget. If you're not ready to sign the whole thing, let's break this into two parts. I'm going to have one job that's pre-con, and then I'll have a secondary signature once you're ready to prove the actual quote.
Yep.
Is that fair to ask of you? And I have never had a client be like, no, I'm not going to pay you for doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
client, like, that makes sense. You've given me hours of free time. We have a scope put together that I understand. It's within my budget. We're very close. I need some final details. I want you to do the work to get me those final details.
Yeah.
I can pay you $2,500 for that because that's going towards the job.
Well, and at the end of it, they will not have just paid you for time that's just nebulous out there somewhere, right? They will end up with something tangible, right? They'll have architectural drawings, they'll have blueprints, they'll have, permits, whatever the action items that you execute for that, pre-con stuff. At the end of it, there's something tangible they're getting, they're paying for, and they will get in return. Hopefully your process of executing those things are further going to land and confirm, I want to go with these guys.
Well, and again, this is not a hard line in the sand for us. As a company, we use intuition. And again, this is more of our guys that we trust long term and that have been here for a long time. That might be head of construction, general manager. We lean on their intuition, not the new project manager's intuition.
Right.
But again, we're always gauging the time spent versus the profitability and our confidence in landing this job. So we've got a job right now that's over $500,000. It's a really good profit. I mean, it's a fair profit, but it's not. It's above 10%, right?
Yeah.
It's a really good profit for the price point. And we're in that job, and the client wants to walk some other properties with us. That they're just doing their due diligence because they've been burned by a contractor in the past. And so we've had the conversation with me and my GM about it of like, all right, so we're gonna walk these properties with her. She has everything done. We've done revisions for her. This is where we're gonna draw the line after they do these walks this day, and let them know that if you want to move forward at this point, this is what we got to do next. We need to be paid for that stuff.
Yeah.
But we did probably 8 hours of extra work for this client.
Sure.
That they wanted to feel safe because they've been burned before.
But it was a choice that we made.
Yes, because we're making 6 figures profit on a job. It's like, it's worth it to gamble that.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a $80,000 job and my profit maxed out at 25%, I'm not spending those extra 8 hours. I'm saying, listen, this is where I'm at. This is what happens next. I'd love to move forward with you. We have a pre-construction section that all of these next things happen in. What can we do to make you feel safe when moving forward and signing this quote?
Yeah. Well, and the reality is that most customers feel like that's what's supposed to happen.
Yes.
They have access. I'm interested in going with you. And so as much as I need you out here, come walk this house again, come do this thing, let me ask questions. They feel like that's just what is afforded to them.
Yep.
And they don't really understand that some of that is just a time cost, and some of it is time and money cost that you've got to pay for.
Yeah.
And if you don't help them understand the expectation and draw that line for them, then they're not jerks, right?
Yeah.
They're not trying to take advantage of you. They just think that that's how it's supposed to go.
Well, and the big difference is proactive versus reactive. I mean,
Yep.
you can rename Prostruct Alliance proactive versus reactive. I mean, that's
That's
everything we do. Because
Yeah.
with this being said, if Jared was my client and I was like, hey, Jared, before we get started, let me just kind of lay out the process. We're going to do this. We're going to get revisions. I'm going to make sure everything looks good. If you're ready to move forward with us, this is what we do during pre-construction. We can do that for you and have that conversation at this point. This is where we need the signature, and this is what we start doing, and this is where you have your outs if you want to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You're like, great, that makes sense. And so when I get to the spot where I'm like, hey, listen, we're at the spot. Are you ready to move forward with us? Yes, I think I am. No, I need this information to get there. Whatever that conversation is, it's been proactively talked about. If we get down to this spot and I'm like, and Jared asked me to do 3 more things for him, and I'm like, well, this is where my line is. And I'm like, sorry, Jared, I'm not doing that till you pay me.
Right.
Whoa, this guy's after my money. He's trying to nickel and dime me now. And it's this, because reactively, if you had an assumption that I was going to keep doing this until you were comfortable, though if I said it proactively ahead of time, hey, just so you know, this is kind of the process. Well, I'm the professional. I do this day in and day out for 18 years. You're a client that maybe has done 1 or 2 renovations. You're going to go with my plan, right? And so laying it out proactively, having this conversation ahead of time, to where, hey, this is what we do. This is when I'm going to need a signature. Hey, let's do that. Let's make you comfortable. But I love to spend all this time on this job, which is kind of my go-to line. It's I'm asking permission to spend more time on your job. I'm not telling you owe me money. Right. And so it's like, I really want to do this stuff. Are you cool with approving me to go ahead and spend these next 30 hours on this stuff? Which is
literally tipping the meter from, are you for me as your client? Or are you only for your dollars?
Yep, it's the rhetoric of being advocating for the client. Right? That's right. It's how do I say this so they know that I'm advocating for them? I'm not falsely saying it, but I want, instead of saying I can't do anything else for you until you pay me, I'm changing how I'm saying it to approach them in a way that I'm giving them what they need, which is saying, hey, listen. I would love to spend this time on this. Can we do that? I just need your approval. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, $2,500. I'm going to pay this anyways. I think we're going with you. That's great. Go ahead and do that. Yeah. But it's not. I'm not asking for a $30,000 deposit at that time. I'm saying, listen, I'm going to spend some time on this for the next 3 weeks. It's going to be. I need $3,500. I need $1,200. Whatever I can justify my time spent on. That's what I need to get paid for in case they walk away without signing.
Yeah. Well, and every client comes to us thinking that all we care about is money. Yep. Right? And if they're met with no, can't, not until you pay me money. Yeah. They go, aha. I found you out. Yep. I knew it. Yep. Right? But if you come at them with you're saying the same thing, right? Yep. But it's like you were talking about. It's the rhetoric. It's the I'm advocating. I want them to understand that they're safe with me, that I'm going to take care of them, and I'm looking out for their best interest. Yep. But I'm also a business, and I have a process that this is how it works. Yep. Right? They're fine with that. Yep. Right? There's actually a level of respect and trust that comes from, even though they're having to jump through some hoops that they weren't expecting, there's a level of trust and respect that comes from, I have a plan. They have a plan. Yeah. They're not some fly by night. There's a reason behind this. Yep. Right? So.
Well, that's it. Next week, we're talking about estimates and what's missing from your estimates that you have to put on there. We see all the time when we're reviewing estimates, spots where our leaky buckets are happening, where you should have put certain things on that estimate. So it's a good transition from this podcast, because okay, pre-con is part of the estimate. I'm separating that out. How should that detail look? What level of detail should I have? How do I look at my project manager's estimates? And really coach around those with him to help him build those out more robust, and we're not missing things.
Essentially, how do I stop losing my original profit that I was trying to make? Yep. I started off at 30 and I ended the job at 18.
Where did that 12% go? Right. And let's make that to where it's a 2%, not a 12% drop. If you're doing $1 million a year, that's $100,000 of profit you're losing. Yep. So let's how do we tighten that up? And we're going to talk about that next week. If you want to talk with Jared or I, we will personally hop on a Zoom with you. Go to prostruct360.com, hit contact us, sign up for the software. We have a free version of the software you can get right now at prostruct360.com. Love to get you on the software. Start using it. It is a very robust, high-end software that we run our company on. All of our people that we coach run their company on. It is built as the bones of our system, and then we coach around it to where it's like, okay, so this is why we have the software set up this way. That's right. It's because you can manage your employees, you can manage your crews, you can receive payment, you can do all this stuff to where it's a one-stop shop for the 1, 2, 3, 4-man shows that might not be doing $100 million a year, but I need something that's where I don't have 7 softwares. Yeah. So it's something a really
to help you keep organized, create some efficiency.
That's it.
And duplicate your company.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.